Well, I think we can get started. Good afternoon, everybody that's popping on. I hope some others will. My name is Margaret. I work at Teachers Treasures in Indianapolis, and I put out on the Executive Director Basecamp on the community page specifically about this particular topic today, which is appointment-based shopping and our shift to that for some of us who have not done it before. But I wanted to just, again, we're going to probably try to do these as often as we can on Fridays with the help of all of you, anybody that wants to help share your knowledge and be uplifting to this network. I'm just grateful that the Kids in Need people bring us all together. I'm sorry we can't do that in person this year, but grateful that we have met each other for the most part and know how to talk to each other because we share so many of the similar strengths and weaknesses at this time. So I started this by just throwing it out to the executive directors, and then the folks that are going to serve as panelists today are going to serve as experts for what they have been doing in their programs. And we do have a lot of questions. You'll see I've already put the questions in the chat area. So feel free to also ask any questions and I'll monitor that. And if we don't hit something that you want to chat about, we'll either continue that on to next week or we'll connect you with the right person that's on the panel. The reason, again, the attendees are not visual is we're going to try to do that we're using Joel's, and he'll explain it. We're using Joel's webinar Zoom product, and I think this is going to work. So we're grateful that you guys are all here. This is, as we were saying earlier, it's the Nashville Summit gone viral or virtual. And I'm going to have the panelists all introduce themselves and what role you play in your program, and then how many teachers do you guys serve? So that'll give a baseline, and then we're going to move on to the platforms that you guys use. Joel, do you want to start?
Sure. I'm Joel Wright. I'm the manager of the LP Pencil Box here in Nashville. The second screen you see, that's my coworker, Sarah Finney. She and I are the staff for the Pencil Box. We are serving as pretend experts this week because we've had a small footprint store, so we've always done scheduled shopping. So happy to answer any questions about that. We serve about 2,500 teachers in store each year, and we make about 2,500 deliveries outside of our actual footprint in store. So, yeah.
Carly?
I am Carly Roush. I'm at Crayons to Classrooms in Dayton. We too have done scheduling from the beginning, and my role is to serve the teachers and volunteers. So I am the one who does all the scheduling with our teachers, and we serve about 3,000 teachers, 3,000 plus teachers right now.
Terry?
Yep, Terry Johnson with Project Teacher in Wichita. We've always done scheduled shopping since day one as well. I'm about 6 years old in what we do, and we serve about 3,000 teachers as well in our community.
Monica?
I'm Monica Lloyd, Director of Programs for Cleveland Kids in Need, and we've always scheduled appointments. We serve about 4,500 teachers a year.
And Fred?
Fred Weber with Hickson Digital, formerly with the Hillsborough Education Foundation Teachers Store, as well as the Hernando Education Foundation's Board of Directors. And typically right now we're only serving about 600 teachers for Hernando. And I also write software for the store POS systems.
So if you guys could, let's talk about the platforms that you're currently using. And again, for the most part, everybody on the panel has been using appointment-based shopping. And there's probably a bunch of us that are on listening, wanting to know, the good, the bad, and the ugly of this. But if you guys could talk about your platforms, and if we could briefly just have you give us what's your strength, what the weakness, and what kind of money are you talking about? If you could all speak to that. Go ahead.
All right, I'll start. I use a scheduling software called Full Slate. It's just an online cloud scheduler. The nonprofit rate runs us a little under $200 a year. What I like about it is we were on 3C, but I didn't want to do registration with teachers just because they got so bogged down in losing passwords. So it doesn't require a password. The negative of it is it's really hard to manage because if they mistype their email each time they sign up, it gets lost in the shuffle. But for us, ease of teacher use was paramount over keeping a really tight schedule.
We currently are using 3C, which I believe runs about $75 a month. The scheduling process for us works pretty good. Our teachers do have a username and a password that they utilize. But the downside is that if you're using it for reporting and shopping forms and data entry, it could be a little bit cumbersome. And like Joel said, some of our teachers forget their passwords, so we have to reset that, but that's common.
So we use 3C also, and our teachers call us on a regular basis about forget passwords and user identification. So that is a problem for us.
And then we use Eventbrite. It's a ticketing service you use for concerts and other big events. It's free because it's no one's paying for it, so we don't pay anything. Teachers can register where they can keep their login information. We like it because it sends them out a QR code, so when they're checking in, we're not looking for names or anything. We just scan their QR code right as they walk in the door, and also has some facial recognition that you could use too. We had some trouble when we did these shopping. We'll get into this a little bit later with substitute shoppers and stuff like that. We had people coming in. We do it by invite only. So based on your school and where you're at, those teachers are invited. So we push those invites based on, like, again, their feeder pattern, their high school, their middle school, and their elementary. And so we were having teachers come from other schools, maybe when it wasn't their shop night. So this was the best resource that we found, and it's free. So we like that.
Brett?
Excuse me. Currently, the software that I developed right now basically is a registration system, which is done at the store level. You can register also online. There's 2 different versions of it. It allows teachers to register themselves or reset password themselves based on the security level that you guys provide as users. But currently, right now, it's made that they go into the system and they have to register online first.
So Joel, I wanted to ask you about, if you don't use your system for registration, how do your teachers register for their year?
So because of our unique situation where we serve one district exclusively, every teacher is allowed to shop. So it just really, if they come out of Metro Nashville Public Schools, one of those 170 schools, then we serve them. So when they sign up, they have to pick from a drop-down list of that school. So that's kind of how we do it. Once or twice a year, we find somebody trying to wander in from one of our schools, but we gently send them on our way. And usually I can catch it because everybody has the same ending to their emails. So as long as they use their school emails, it's pretty easy to check.
And so how many of your format do any of you guys use then your platform for teacher registrations?
Our teachers don't register themselves. We uploaded them into the system, and then we will then send them their usernames and passwords. So we collect paperwork through Google Docs and Google Excel spreadsheets that we collect the paperwork, and they get their username and login from us. They don't register themselves.
Okay.
So each of our schools has what we call a school advocate, and it's that person's job to register the teachers in their building.
Okay.
And then for us, our teachers, they register on our website separate. We capture some different information from them. They do register for Eventbrite if they want to, and that just, so it's easy for the next time, but everything else is kind of on our website separate.
Okay, I'm going rogue again to the panel. I didn't ask you guys this question earlier. How many of you guys charge a registration fee at the beginning of the year for your teachers? Anybody? Okay. Well, that will be a topic for down the road, because I know there's handfuls of us that do have a fee-based circumstance. I wanted to tell all the attendees a couple of things. If you do have questions, first of all, you can see in the chat box the things that we're going to talk about today. But if you want to add additional questions, we're happy to try to get to those. And again, if you weren't here for the beginning, we're going to be doing these every Friday based on, what everybody's kind of collaborating on and what we need to chat about next as far as getting ready for back to school. So let's talk about how you guys, you guys all do this, I think, a little bit differently. How do you pad the time slots? Terry and Joel, you guys do invite only, I believe. If you could explain that. And then do any of you guys allow for walk-ins after your scheduling?
I'll start. We do ours a little bit differently. I do an appointment every 2 minutes. This year will obviously have to be spaced out probably a little bit more than that. I call myself the water slide attendant all the time, where it's almost like next. That's because we have a limited number of carts and only about 1,300 square feet of retail store, so it's literally trying to space it out. We also make our store where our shopping sheet is in the order that they find it. Everything's one big loop around our store where the next item on your list is the next item on the shelf. And that's all trying to just get as many people through and teachers sped through as quickly as we can get them in and out. We also reduced our checkout process down to almost a Costco style. Oh, that looks good. Here, we'll grab your sheet, just so that we don't have any pinch points.
Joel, could you add to this too? How many times do you allow a teacher to shop in a year?
It's once in the first quarter, just because that's our busiest, and then pretty much after that, they can come every month.
So if you guys could add that to your answers as well, appreciate it.
So we allow teachers to shop once a semester. And I'm sorry, what were the other questions, Margaret?
What's your time slot? How long can they be in the building?
So we have, they're hourly, and we usually have a volunteer or staff who will announce like at the 45-minute mark that it's time for you to start heading to checkout. We count everything we have to for the audit our annual audit. So it takes about 5 to 8 minutes for each teacher to be checked out.
And so we've talked about this, on average, we say about 40 minutes is an average time for teachers to shop. Carly, is that what you find?
Yep. So our check-in time slots are about 15 minutes check-in. We don't have the limitations, but we ask that our teachers shop for about 40 to 45 minutes to an hour at the latest. We have had teachers that have stayed the whole 3 hours. However, that is not that's not very common. It's usually about 45 minutes to an hour.
So when you do every 15 minutes, Carly, Joel, the same thing. How many teachers are you guys going to be allowing in the building at a time? Again, all of us have different square footage, but what's a manageable number?
So we're still talking about that. But when we did this post-COVID or pre-COVID, we were allowing, we had 15-minute time slots, and we had about 4 to 5 time slots. Teachers come within those 15 minutes. So that was a lot more teachers in our store at once than what we potentially will be able to do coming up. So we're looking at potentially having about 10 teachers in the store at a time right now. That could possibly change with everything that's going on, though.
We're looking at, we've done every 2 minutes, so every hour we allow up to 30 teachers to come through. Our shopping times really average around 25 minutes or less, but we really pushed to try to make it faster because of our footprint. I think this year I'm looking at cutting that at least in half. So going 4 to 5 minute increments. It's going to make our store feel a little dead, but at the same time, obviously, spacing is going to be key.
Or more peaceful.
Yes.
More peaceful,
One thing we do 30-minute increments. And one thing I was sharing with the panelists earlier in the week is on our shop sheet, we will mark what time they entered and then what time they need to be done. And so then we have kind of the floor Nazi walking around and saying, hey, your time's up. We need your cart for the next group of people. So, but we make that part of the check-in where we say, okay, so your time was at 12 o'clock. We need you to be done by 12:30. So just be coming to check out around 12:30.
Terry, is your floor monitor a volunteer, or is that a professional staff?
It's I mean, it's really anybody that is willing to make some teachers angry. So it's either a volunteer or a staff member. So, and it's pretty good. Like we talked about, we've tried to eliminate some of the, like we've taken the books out of our resource center. That seemed to be a part where people were sticking around a little bit longer. And really the only other kind of slow area is the Joanne stuff. So trying to figure out a way to get people through kind of that area. Other than that, most people stay within 30 minutes, if not 20 minutes.
Fred or Monica, do you want to chime in on any of that?
Yeah, so our typically shop in about, but it's the books, the Joanne, and if we have any other specialty items that hold them up, we pick up from 15 Joanne stores, and Joanne's headquarters is in Cleveland area, so we typically get a lot of donations from them. We have a nice size section dedicated to Joanne, so that typically holds people up.
Typically for the venues that I represent, I have 6 of them that use the online functions, and some of them are quarterly, the majority are monthly that shop. Of the venues that do, most of them use the full day versus hourly. Some will do 120 in a full day, others will do the hourly, and usually between 15 to 30 is typically the average for the hourly. And not too many, I don't think anybody uses 15-minute intervals yet at this point.
So we have already identified that, and I'm the same kind of person about password remembrance, but there's question about teacher behavior on showing up on time. How do you guys manage that if they show up 15 minutes late? I know we're doing the best we can. We're offering grace at a very difficult time in a hard profession. So are you guys hardcore, or what are your limitations? Go ahead, Carly.
So for us, we have allowed a lot of flexibility with showing up, as long as they're showing up on the day that they're scheduled. So like Terry had mentioned a little bit earlier about substitute shoppers and things like that, we work and we want to make sure that our teachers come on the day that they're scheduled. So that's kind of where we're a little bit strict. In the past, if teachers come early, we've allowed them to go ahead and shop. If teachers even called us and came a little bit late, or if they came a little bit late, we usually allowed them to shop. With the current situation, we're kind of looking at making sure they come within that time slot. That's, I think, going to be a hindrance for all of us, just because we want them to shop. I think all of us want our teachers to shop. So that's currently what we're looking at, but that's going to be something that we have to kind of tighten up a little bit. But we always try to allow the teacher to shop.
Yeah, one thing we do, especially within that time frame, is so say you signed up to shop at 12 and you show up at 12:10. What we've told people in the email coming out, and then even when they come in, it's like your shop time ends at 12:30. You have those 30 minutes to shop. We will give a little bit of grace, but when we communicate that in the beginning, and if we have kind of repeat offenders, I mean, we're pretty hard on anybody that's at the 12 o'clock, 12 p.m. or the 4 p.m. shop time at 4:30. We're collecting carts, and that's how we can monitor that. If people show up that weren't supposed to, we give them a shortened shop sheet. But then also, if they come early, we let them shop, but they just don't have a cart unless there's one available. So the carts kind of help us dictate who's shopping and when they're shopping. People can kind of walk around without a cart, but a lot of people want those carts to get those big items. But if they come early, we'll go ahead and let them shop, because I will open up some more time later on in the evening.
Fred, you had mentioned behavior modification. How long do you think it takes for a teacher to get used to these? And I'm going to use the word rules. Again, we have parameters, but Fred, what's your experience on how long it takes somebody to get adjusted to a new system?
Well, I'm going to say at least 4 months. When we first switched over to scheduling at the Hillsborough store, I would say 25% of the teachers really paid attention. And then we didn't put any penalties in for anybody to walk in unannounced. But it took about 4 months to get everybody acclimated to scheduling online first, and the amount of walk-ins decreased, but never stopped even after 4 months. But majority understood it.
So do you guys recommend that we pad a few extra spots for walk-ins?
So we've been a little flexible too, based on what how many carts we have available. We tend to schedule more because we do have sometimes there are teachers that don't show up. So we tend to add 5 to whatever our limit is. Going forward, we're not going to allow walk-ins at all.
Okay.
Yeah, so one thing we do, we know on the floor we want 15 teachers. So we will, we don't have very many walk-ins, but what we do have is like last minute calls or registrations. They want to register the day of after our registration shut down. So we'll put out that we have like 12 open spots, but we can have a capacity of 15. So there is a little bit of padding in that. And then we also, there's a question in the chat box about times when we have a 30-minute time slot. We'll stagger it. We usually give about 15-minute window. So, you know, if it's 3 to 3:30, then the next one's 3:45 to 4:15. So
Does that time slot, Terry, allow for check-in and check-out, or is that their actual on-the-floor shopping?
it all is the same time. So we're trying to get people checking out by the end of their time. So if we go to 3 to 3:30, we want them checking out by 3:30. But we start checking people in even though there's a cart not available. So if they're there at 3:30 for the 3:45 shop, we'll start checking in. We even let them shop and just say you don't have a cart, and when a cart comes available, we'll go find one for you. So.
Well, and that will be difficult too because of the cleaning process, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
all those pieces, we'll talk about that at the next store readiness one. We think Joel's going to facilitate that next week for us. Anybody else want to jump in on that, Pat, or can we move to scheduling? You guys good? Can a teacher, and I'd like your advice on, can they schedule for the entire year, or from your experience, what is the smartest duration that you offer a teacher for them to register?
I think it depends on how often you're going to shop. For those that are shopping once a semester or once a year, you can obviously open it up. For us, especially in the summer when we get teachers begging us to open up our shopping windows, if we open them up right now, like at the end of the school year for the next year, our no-show rate's going to be epic in August because it's just too far in advance for them to have any clue of what PD schedules and everything else is going to be after school schedules. So we found our best success to be at about 30 to 60 days at the most going out. Otherwise, your no-show rate grows, even with the reminder email 3 to 5 days in advance. It really grows for us.
We're the same. We do 60 days.
So we're a little bit different. Our teachers are only allowed to shop once per semester. So previously, pre-COVID, we scheduled all of the dates for the whole semester. So we did it semesterly. So we would have all of those dates scheduled, and teachers were able to sign up for the first semester starting July 1, and that was August through early December, and then we scheduled the second semester, and they were able to start scheduling starting December 1st, and that would be January through May. So we did it a little bit differently. Post-COVID, we're probably not going to schedule that far in advance just because changes are occurring every single day. So we're probably looking about scheduling about a month out right now, just to make sure that if changes are made, then we can adjust those time slots.
Since we do based on schools, we send the invites out, and so they can choose from when the invites go out. So they're not picking a time based on opening our open schedule. It's based on just when their school email gets. So they can shop once per semester, and we invite them about 6 times per semester. So if they can't come within the week of those 6 times, then they just miss out on their semester shopping.
Tell us about penalty. Do you guys behavior mod teachers that are no-shows? How do you guys handle that with grace?
So our policy is if they have when they get to 2 no-shows, then they lose their privileges, their shopping privileges for the school year. We have never enforced it, but it is in our policies.
Is that something, I'm thinking about Fred in our software. I mean, do you guys pull reports to see what teachers are not abiding by the rules?
Yeah, we have a no-show report that we can print.
Our no-show policy is that if they show up twice per semester, they're locked out for the semester. And I know that Monica uses 3C as well. 3C will automatically lock them out if they have 2 no-shows on their account for us. We do have that no-show report as well, but it will go ahead and lock them out and they won't be able to schedule until the following semester.
Do all of your platforms have a reminder or a nudge that the teachers get a day or 2 in advance? Does 3C do that?
3C does not. We have a staff member that sends reminders out. She usually sends them weekly, but last semester we were having a lot more no-shows. So we actually started sending them out about 2 days in advance per shop before each shop.
Same thing happened with us. So we started sending them, staff started sending them out 2 to 3 days before.
We do 3 days auto send.
Typically, you have to do manual, but it does let you pick the slot and send it to those teachers in that grouping. So we recommend 2 to 3 days as well.
And Terry, Eventbrite?
Yeah, I mean, I think the teacher can actually suggest how they want it. So sometimes they can it even will remind them on Facebook in some cases. So you have an upcoming event. So it's totally like a concert would.
Well, one of you guys had said earlier when we chatted this week about, or David, our director of ops said, you know, they're ready for, they know changes are coming for us, for whatever, even in a current circumstance that you guys use, but all these, the way that we can get them to adhere the best possible, because we got other crazy stuff to deal with. The more, you know, abiding they can be by these rules and regulations, the better. Again, we chat just for the benefit of all the attendees. What's the average shopping time? But I wanted to have you guys mention, I thought somebody mentioned you guys are going to pull books or anything else that's taking a lot of duration of their shopping. Can you guys speak to that?
Yeah, we pulled books on ours already. And then, like I said, it's the Joann would be the only other thing. And we're in any kind of like used donation that's just kind of like a hodgepodge of like old teacher, teacher resources that like the posters and things like that. We've already pulled that. It's the Joann that we're trying to decide because there's just so much when we put out how we want to distribute that side.
Yeah. Anybody else doing anything to mitigate time, expedite time on their floor?
We have talked about removing Joann's and the books. Right now, we're not solidified on those things, but that has been discussed. And then, what was the other question you had, Margaret?
Well, it's books and or Joann's, but how are you expediting or making the floor move quicker? Is that a better way?
Yeah, so, well, and I know Joel does this in Nashville as well, but the thing that we already utilize is we have a pattern within our store. So on our shopping sheet, section A is right there, and then they'll follow section B, C, D, E, F, etc. So that really helps teachers move quickly through the store. And I'm sure with Joel having, 30-minute time slots, that moves, or 30 minutes usually on average. That's usually why, because they just follow straight the shopping sheet. So we are continuing.
Another one for kind of your hodgepodge items is we try to have like a manipulative of the week or the day. Like, so we have 1 billion of those little flashlights from National Pen or something. Like they just go out in bags and like, that's what your random item is. And so that can also speed it up, or they're not trying to choose, oh, do I want little flashlights or this random Joann's thing or this thing? Like whatever week you show up, that's what you got. That's your option.
Oh, go ahead, Terry. Were you going to say something? Okay, but do your teachers know that you're pulling books? Like I'm going to use that because we're very book heavy at Teachers Treasures. How do you think that's going to go over, or have you found another way to distribute those?
Yeah, I was getting ready to answer that question in the chat. So there's an organization locally for us that's all they do. It's books for teachers in classrooms. They have that 3rd grade reading initiative. And so because that's all they do, we feel pretty confident that those books are going to get in the hands of students. The only thing that we feel a little kind of, like we might be missing something is like the teacher instruction books and, all that stuff. But we haven't had too many people comment on that when there's no books there anymore. So it's just one of those things where it's, we started slowly taking the books out, and I think they just realized we weren't getting more in.
Anybody else want to speak to that?
Our teachers don't know yet because we haven't shopped. And since we're still up in the air, then that's where we're at. But we also have talked about bundling our Joann's items into like $20 bundles. So then they just grab a bundle. So we actually got that feedback before we shut down that people thought that would be a good idea. So we actually started doing that beforehand. So that might be something that we try out and see if that works.
And Carly, I'd love it if you or Steve could take a photo of what that looks like.
I can do that.
And throw those on the base camps, because this is the kind of thing that will help all of us, is like, this is what we're doing. This is what it's going to look like. I think that
absolutely.
Anybody could do that.
Yeah, we did do that with some of the Joann stuff, the smaller things. We just started like all the little paints and like buttons and things like that we put them in bags. And that did help speed it up a little bit. So it's just those larger, the owls and the wine boxes and all that stuff. You're kind of like, you're just like, what are teachers using this for? But
are you guys getting rid of books because of the speed issue, or are you getting rid of it because they'd have to touch those books?
We got rid of it for the speed. People were just spending way too much time. We did this before all this happened. And so it was purely a speed and just getting teachers through so we can get more carts on the floor.
Okay. Carly, was yours for speed as well?
Ours potentially for speed, but I think that was the main thing. Again, we still have all of the books on our shelf. So again, that's still up in the air. But I think our teachers got through in 40 minutes before, so they might still get through in 40 minutes. But I know that, like Monica said, that's kind of where they linger. So.
Well, I'm going to move on to the schedule. And again, you heard from the attendees, so you know that some of these folks have shopping once a quarter, some once a semester. Teachers Treasures, we do it once a month. But I'd love you guys to talk about, we all have to think outside of the box. We have to kind of be okay with change, and to a point. But what hours have you found to be most popular? What are the least popular? What does flexibility look like? Mornings and weekends. And I want to talk about July too, because most of us are not open in July, but what's working for you guys. So pick any part of that. Hours that are most popular, least popular, what's your flex hours? Who's doing morning shopping? And what are Saturdays looking like for you?
So our best, most popular day is Saturday mornings, like the first two shifts, 8 and 9, and then also Tuesdays, the first two shifts. We tried early morning last year, and that's a 6 a.m., 7 a.m., and 8 a.m. shifts. Those right away.
6 a.m.?
6 a.m.
What?
Right away. And the first time, all staff worked that teacher shop, and as I was pulling into the parking lot at 5:15, I thought, whose stupid idea was this? Of course, it was mine, but those fill up the fastest.
How many days a week do you do that, Monica?
We only do it like twice a month. We are talking about, going forward, are we going to change that? A lot of teachers liked coming before school, especially those schools that we have schools that get out early and schools that get out late. And so those schools that don't get out until 3:34, they don't, the last thing they want to do when they have to do everything else at home is come shop. So they preferred to come at 6 in the morning.
And do you do that on weekdays or weekends only?
We did it on weekdays. Wow. Yeah.
I can't with the 6 a.m. We shop Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and we see a lot of people on Saturdays. We only shop one Saturday a month, however, in the morning shift, so those fill up the fastest. pre-COVID, we were able to schedule a lot of people heavier at 3 o'clock. So if we had those lingers, then they could get done quicker. So we saw a lot of people at 3 o'clock and then at 4:30 because we have schools that get out late. So those are the two kind of heaviest, 4:30 are the heaviest time slots that we kind of see at Crayons.
We do 2 days a week, 3 to 6 after school, and then we do 2 Saturdays a month for 6 hours. Our Saturdays fill up much faster. This year we did 122 slots on a Saturday, and they would still sell it out super fast for us. This year, obviously with spacing, we're probably going to add a third day during the week, just because our numbers are going to go down per shift. And we're deciding if it's going to be just some sort of online pre-packed bag for people that don't actually want to come into our store on that third day or not, if we can serve some of the teachers that way.
I'm going to jump to that topic. One of you guys mentioned about vulnerable shoppers. So those folks that don't want to be in the space with 20 others. How many of you guys are addressing that or have plans to address vulnerable shoppers?
Yeah, I think we will. You know, for us, Saturdays actually have not been popular, and it's the weirdest thing. It's great for us. That means we don't have to necessarily show up on a Saturday morning, but our afternoon shops have been pretty popular. What we've done on Saturdays is done like pop-up shops where we partner with a local organization or a company, and we'll end up on their lot. But I think we'll move to like a Saturday shopping for vulnerable shoppers where we're talking, 4 or 5 in at a time. And we'll just see. That seems to be kind of a buzz thing right now for a lot of the other companies and grocery stores. So I think I was the one that brought that up to see if there's anybody else doing that, because it's been a conversation we had. Margaret, you did ask about July. July had been actually really popular for us. We're in the middle of a warehouse remodel, so we're actually not doing any shopping because we're on district property. But last year, July was by far the busiest shopping time for us.
And we are starting to shop in July. We are looking at potentially the week after the 4th. So that is going to be kind of our test. We have not shopped in July prior though, so.
I think what I meant, we chatted about this, but Fred, this is of interest too on any of these platforms to allow, if you shop in July and you get all your back to school stuff, how do we make sure that they don't come back in August? So that parameter, Joel, you've done that, right? That you've got a parameter that they could shop in this 90-day or 60-day or 40 days, however. Is that how you did it, Joel?
Yeah, and really we run so much, we tell them those are the rules. I don't really have a digital way of really enforcing it. But I mean, we post it really big, like you get 1 shot per quarter. And so it hasn't been an issue in a major way. Like, and if I see somebody like, I mean, once you've been doing this, like I get to recognize a lot of the names. If I see somebody like they've shot before, I'll kind of send a reminder email. And a lot of times it's like, oh, so sorry, I signed up for this and I meant to sign up for this date. And almost all the time they're either a no-show, like they tried to change their date and didn't successfully cancel or something, versus gaming the system. I've not had a huge problem with that.
Does your point of sale system identify the dates of the shop so there's not a redundancy?
It identifies it, but it does not have, in the version I pay for, it does not have a way for me to actually lock them out. I purposely did a no registration one. I was pushed very hard when I started to make it as easy as possible on the teacher. And so almost all of our policies are make it harder on us, not them. So
We set those parameters in 3C so we can say, how many times they can schedule throughout the year. And we haven't done summer before. We used to do summer school. So teachers who were teaching summer school could shop in June. But we've never been open in the summer. Also, one thing I didn't mention was we tried a later night shift last year with 6 to 7. And we found that the majority of the teachers registered because the earlier shifts were full and they came earlier. So we just cut that out.
Okay, I want to reiterate that you guys had a late shift once a week, and it was not popular, so that they would maybe try to show up earlier to get in. But
Right.
yeah.
So the shift was 6 to 7, but they would come at 5 or 5:15 or 5:30, and I mean we might have 2 or 3 people that actually came between the 6 to 7.
We also flopped doing a similar thing a couple years ago. We tried to go to 7:30 one night, and it just went dead by 6.
Our late night shopping, we do those during, so if it happens to be a conference week for teachers and we know we're going to invite them, we will push those later. We found that we were inviting teachers on, maybe they're doing conferences or a busy week, and we weren't necessarily aware of that, and they couldn't shop. So we adjusted late night shopping for teachers during conference weeks, and that went over pretty well.
And we have done daytime shops as well, like on certain holidays that the schools are closed, but we're open, as well as professional development days and during spring breaks.
Monica, how do you get volunteers to show up for a 6 a.m. shift?
We have a couple crazy volunteers that are early morning people, and they sign up. I'm not an early morning person, so I don't know why I even threw that idea out there, but we have a few that will sign up.
And so you are telling this group that 6 a.m. is popular?
They are in the parking lot at 5:30 flashing their lights.
And how many folks do you let in during a shift?
100, well, per shift, probably about 25.
Okay. I think we should talk in a year to see how that's gone over for everybody. It's intriguing to me, but yeah, we'll see how that goes over. All right. Anybody else want to say anything about that particular topic? Override program, and what flexibilities do you guys allow for? A vulnerable, somebody that's injured, you know, again, I think most of us don't allow any guests or shopping companions, but what kind of flexibilities do you guys allow for?
One of ours, you know, if they showed up and they're not registered, so our shop sheet is a little bit different, where you have line items and you just fill up your shop sheet based on line items. Here's not a shop sheet full of everything in the store and you can pick what you want. And so we give them a condensed shopping sheet. Same thing so if someone will come and they're not necessarily an official registered teacher, maybe they're a para or they're working in a different capacity, they can have the shortened shop sheet. So it's probably the only kind of anomaly that we have.
We don't allow for substitute shoppers. However, we, like Monica, we have a teacher representative. We have had people that have had mobility issues, can't really shop, had surgery or something like that. We usually get a phone call from the teacher representative and we will potentially allow them to shop for them. But that's very few and far between. And pre this, we did allow teaching assistants to come, and student teachers, things like that, to come shop with their teacher. That's probably not going to happen this fall, though.
I would say I'm speaking for Hillsborough back in the day, the substitute shopper program became one of our biggest increases in volume because the ability for somebody else to go shop for a teacher, it actually became almost 50% of our shoppers were substitute shoppers at the end before I had left the organization. So it was huge.
Fred, did they have to fill out a form, by the way? How did that get regulated?
They did. We were very stringent about, first of all, it had to be a teacher in our, district, of course, and that we had the measures to make sure that the teacher did. They filled out a form, they brought it in saying that they were allowed to get and shop for that teacher. And as long as for the rest of the year that was on file, they were allowed to continue to shop. So it was pretty easy.
We have a short half-page form that I stole directly from the Charlotte store. And it allows them to just say, this person's shopping for me. It's almost always either a student teacher, or a parapro, or a teacher in their in their school. We have a rule that they're only allowed to shop twice in a day, so for themselves and for one other teacher. And we've been allowing them to go through the store twice with 2 carts. So basically grab a cart, make their round, grab another cart, make the round for the other teacher. So they sign in for that teacher and basically fill out their sheet like that teacher is shopping. We just started it a year ago. It's been a tiny percentage, maybe 75 shops total or something. So it really didn't affect us much.
So Joel, let's just say that somebody's shopping for me. Do they schedule under my name, and then they
Yeah.
shop, and then they present I'm the substitute shopper for Margaret?
So it basically came from 2. There's like our teacher ambassador, which is our kind of advocate at the school, being mad that they can't actually drag people in. So coming to get kind of a selection to show them, hey, come shop. Or it's somebody that's like, oh, I had this come up. I'm sending my parapro for our area or something like that because they get called in for an IEP meeting or something else, but they really want to keep their shop appointment. And a lot of times they'll even show up with a printed out list telling people what to grab. So those are kind of the 2 that we saw a lot of.
We're similar to Joel. We had about 5 substitute shoppers last semester.
It's a really nice thing to offer. David's definitely considering doing it for us, and we use Fred's system, so we're working to that. We'll see if that works out. I wanted to ask you guys, this is off book, are there any political issues? Do you ever get hit that says that you favor one school or one district over another, that somebody gets in, they get to shop more than any others? Do you ever get that kind of feedback?
We haven't had any type of feedback like that. I think our biggest hindrance is a lot of people think we only serve Dayton Public Schools, but we serve 7 counties. So there's just some confusion there. But the time slots, the one thing that we heard when I started this position 2 years ago was that our earlier schools were favored more than our late schools. So that's why we added the later time slots, more time slots to the 4 and 4:30, so that those later schools could get there. So that was some feedback that we had heard back then. And I think we've kind of mitigated that issue.
Anybody else on that? Any politic issues? For those of you guys who are in the attendees, we are, and any questions that you're asking that we don't get to today, we're going to continue on. We're going to be doing a store readiness, whatever that looks like, next Friday. And for those of you who, we just did this through one part of the base camp, but if there's anybody on from Kids in Need, how can we share this, these virtual summit questions and webinars with others? So I'd sure appreciate if we could figure out some other ways to share this information, these opportunities with others. Joel, are we recording this?
Yes.
Okay. So I think that's going to be really helpful too, that we could post that with our colleagues as well. We chatted earlier about regulating and monitoring the shopping time. You guys are kind of giving us that 40-minute piece. And again, I think that with COVID, I think teachers will be less likely to linger. But that's just, again, just one person's opinion, but it'll be curious to see. Let's continue on. Did you guys say how many shoppers you think you'll let in the building? We chatted about that at the front end, didn't we? And that we talked about the learning curve. I think this would be interesting. One of the questions I wanted to know, if some of us move to this, which we'll have to, and you've heard Fred say it's about a 4-month kind of training opportunity that we have to kind of get these guys used to a new format. If we piloted this, let's just say in July, what would you say a user group should be if we were going to fill, let's just say 300 slots in July? What would you guys think what a good user group would be to get to that number? Are you following me? Joel, you're muted.
Oh, okay. No, I'm sorry. I'm like how many teachers you'd want to send it out to fill 300 slots? Or?
We don't want to send it to all 5,000. Okay?
Right.
Just kind of want to do a test group. I'm speaking for myself, but a test.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Usually when I send out, like my list is around 2,000 teachers' names that are still value. If I send out to that entire 2,000 list, hey, shopping appointments are open, usually in that first day I get about 25% sign up within a day of it being sent out. And then another about 15 to 20% over the next week. So I'd say if you want to send 300, I would send out about 500 to 600 invites, and you'll probably fill up 300 slots.
That's what we do. So it's kind of similar to what Joel does. I mean, or what he was saying is, so we'll send it out to exactly the amount, since we're doing invite only. If we have 75 shops, we'll send it out to 75 teachers. And then after each 24-hour period, we'll start increasing that. It ends up being, I would say for 300, total emails that you're going to send out is probably close to 600 if it were in my situation. So it's about double.
We always send to our entire teacher mailing list unless it's a specific teacher shop for like art teachers or music teachers or phys ed teachers. So, you know, we're sending to about 10,000 whenever we open teacher shops. We had a UB box distribution, and we had I think 700 slots, and we filled up in about 12 hours. Because I mean, everybody wants a UB box.
So we have a couple of different things, and I don't know what centers utilize these things, but we have a Facebook group with eligible teachers. Out of our 3,000 teachers, there's only about 600 teachers that are within that group, just because a lot of people either aren't on Facebook or they don't choose to join the group. So we do a lot of giveaways on there. And then for special shops, like you're talking about, Margaret, to try to do a test for July, we have what we call our teacher advisory committee. And those teachers, we have about 20 teachers on that committee that kind of give us advice throughout the year. We would probably reach out to them. We've actually talked to them, or we're actually planning on talking about them to do a kind of a test run potentially in June, since we've never done summer shopping. But we would reach out to them to reach out to their schools first before we would reach out to the whole 3,000.
We'll see. Fred, any comment on that? You know, you're gonna be helping us with it. A couple of you have asked about mobile outreach and other things. I'm wondering if, and we could just talk through the Basecamp, but I wonder if online and mobile could be a whole webinar for us. If we get a panel of folks that are converting to that, and or how we're moving to online, or how you've been really successful with it. Fundamentally, for our small team, is we're very concerned about our labor pool. Our volunteers tend to be older, retired teachers. I think we'll get a good fair amount of them back. But today I was on a call with a group that is with disabled. We have some great, amazing men, highly mobile, highly ambulatory. And we want them to come in because we need backpacks built, and they've kind of been good labor for us. They don't see that group getting back together again until potentially August. So I think that that's a whole nother conversation when we talk next week on store readiness about who's going to do this work without killing you, without what are we able to do? So I feel like the Basecamp could be a place that we can offer up. What else? What other topics would we like to hear about? And then kind of wrap up some of these ideas. But if we could look at store readiness next week, and then maybe go to the online and mobile, how are we going to do this? How are we going to execute our mobile programs, or how are you guys doing it online? I think that'd be really helpful. But we know that some of us are building plans. I think those would be things we can share with each other, documents that are working for you. Joel, I'd love you to share with us like your shopping, the substitute shopping form. Again,
I'll put it up on Basecamp.
Yeah, and Carly, if we could see the photo of what it looks like to bundle Jo-Ann Fabrics, or any other way you're expediting things. I think that'd be helpful. I'm trying to read these messages. But yeah, this has been a great panel. We want to make sure that more folks, and again, I don't know if anybody from Kids in Need is in the attendee box, but if you could help us share these opportunities with the membership, I think that would be really terrific. I just thought we'd go back around again. Joel, all of you guys, again, reiterate what program you're using, what platform are you using, and anything else you just want to, close with for everybody. Advice.
So yeah, we use one called Full Slate. It's an online, just online scheduler. And it works for us because we were looking to do one without a registration, and it does do auto email reminders, cancellations. And so it serves us well in that capacity.
We currently are using 3C, and I just wanted to throw out there, if anybody has additional questions, I'm going to go ahead and put my email address in the chat box for everybody, because I am happy to talk with you more, either via phone or via email as well, just to help everybody out.
We use 3C as well, and I'm happy to talk to anyone if they want.
And again, we use Eventbrite, like kind of with Joel. It works for us, and we like to do things a little bit different, I guess. But no, it works for us, and I think just the flexibility, having everything on your mobile phone, is really helpful for teachers as well.
And I currently write software for Applebase, and about 20 different venues are currently using it, and it was built for the same reasons why each one of you are here. Is as you develop things, you add things to it, and as a user, it was very easy for me to go ahead and create something. So, and I'll leave my email address on the bottom as well.
And I will throw out a thing for next week. If any of you feel like you have a good plan for store operations and reopening and how you're actually going to physically get that done, let me know. I am happy to be the host next week and facilitator, but I do not have a plan yet. So I am going to be excited to learn from all of you. So if you have something going good, I'm going to throw my email down there. Email me, throw it on Basecamp, and I'll try to put together a group of people that are willing to talk about that, and hopefully do half the job that Margaret did getting us together today. So.
Well, and Mary Lee Baxter has posted in the Q&A that they prepared many documents, and I think that Mary Lee would be a good candidate to be on the panel next week. I know David Hobson has prepared our doc as well. David's ready to share. I also know Barbara Blaylock from Tempe, Tempe has done one as well. So again, those, as long as you guys are really comfortable sharing our content, I think we'll all do better because of each other, right? We sure will. So it looks like most of us are going to be reopening. Our plans are. We can talk about that with store readiness next week. Again, this is recorded. We'll throw it up on both base camps if Kids in Need will help us with that. And I'm grateful to you guys that hopped on, because this is what we're all about, right? This is just trying to help each other. Just trying to help. So thank you, Stacy, for being our backbone today on the technology. Is it Sarah? Yep. Sarah, sorry. And thanks all the attendees. It was great having you here. And just next week, bring your colleagues with you, okay? Thanks, everybody. Thanks so much. Appreciate you all. Thank you.